Hi guys, it's Geraldine Ralph here from Geraldine Ralph Studios, where we talk about all things having to do with early childhood development. If you don't know who I am, I have a home daycare with 6 little people under the age of 5, and we do a lot of process-based art, and I'd love to help other early childhood professionals create a program that works for you. So I had somebody recently reach out to me and ask me what my COVID response plan is going to be looking like. During vacation, I'm taking a little bit of time to go over all my paperwork and go over my response plan and make sure that I have everything set up according to licensing standards. Just before Christmas, we had a few new things that came out through licensing. I'm in Michigan, so we recently had a little bit more information that came out through licensing, a few more requirements, things that they wanted us to take care of. Hang on a second, guys. I'm going to set this up a little bit better here. I don't know what's going on. Okay, that's better. Anyways, yeah, so we had a few things come out, a few new requirements. So I had to make a few changes to my COVID response plan. So I'm going to share that with you because I just went over the email and I created some little notes here about things that I've already had in place and some things that have changed. So in Michigan, I have just received a notification that we are required to make children over the age of 5 wear masks while they're in care. So that's something that's going to be new when my kids come back from vacation. I only have 2 kids who are over the age of 5, so they're going to have to be wearing masks. I'm going to have to let parents know that that is part of my response plan. So there is a list of questions on the Michigan Licensing and Regulatory Affairs website. And so I'll just go over the basics of what I have in my parent disaster plan, and hopefully that will help you. So number 1, how will you monitor symptoms? So I put in my disaster plan that I'm going to be asking parents, basically every morning whenever parents come in, we have a short conversation about, how was the weekend, how are they doing, yada, yada, yada. So if there's any concerns about any possibility of any symptoms, parents always let me know right away. We are also taking children's temperatures with touchless thermometers. I'm having parents do that whenever they come in. I also have a thermometer in my space. I only have 6 children, and my parents are really good about being honest with that kind of thing. I hate to say it. I know some of you have parents, maybe you don't trust their judgment or trust their ability to follow through on that. My families are pretty good about that, but I also have a touchless thermometer. So parents take their children's temperatures when they come in, and then whenever they sign in, they sign what their temperature is. So and then also throughout the day, if I ever have any question, then I have my touchless thermometer, so I will use that for the children. The next question is, how will you socially distance? So in my program, these are small children, so it is challenging to socially distance. As many of you know, when you're working with children, they want to be all around each other. They want to be with each other. They want to be with me, So I do my best to create different areas in my classroom where the children can work so that they're kind of naturally going to be interested in doing different things. So I have different centers set up. So I'll be like, okay, 2 people at the light table, 2 people in the home center, and then I'll set out a couple of different activities for the kids where they can play, like say, we'll get out the mats, the exercise mats, and they can do tumbles and things like that. I also set up a couple of different tables throughout the room with individual activities. Now, I am not going to go around all day and say, oops, you're closer than 6 feet from each other, because that's stressful for everybody, for the children and for myself. And I don't think that is in the best interest of the children or myself to spend our whole day doing that. But I do set the environment up in a way that facilitates a little bit more social distancing. Also, we are outside as much as we possibly can be. With the weather being what it is a little bit more challenging to get outside. I did set up some activities for the kids. I did set my garage up so that I have a lot of activities outside for the kids, so I could just pull things out for them to be able to work on out there. So that way the kids are outside and they're already going to be naturally distancing from each other. So that's how we handle the social distancing. The next question is, how will you ensure hygiene and cleaning and disinfecting? So I have a dirty bin in my classroom. I call it the dirty bin. And that's where I put any toys that anybody might have mouthed throughout the day, or if they sneeze on a toy. Obviously, we're washing hands and sanitizing, those kinds of things. But just for the quick, get that toy out of rotation, I have the dirty bin, and I set up a little bin where I can put the toys that the children have sneezed on or had some sort of bodily fluids. We also obviously are washing our hands. I go in the bathroom with the children and wash their hands. My 5-year-olds, I'm starting to let them wash their hands on their own. Now, under normal circumstances, my kids start learning how to wash their hands around 3, somewhere between 3 and 5. They're doing it independently. But with COVID, I want to make sure that they're not just putting a glob of soap on their hands and rinsing it off, because I know you've all seen how children will do that from time to time. So that is in my disaster response plan, is making sure that parents know that I'm going in there and I am washing the hands with the children. As far as cleaning the toys, I am taking out toys that have any bodily fluids on them, and then at the end of the day, I sanitize my toys. Let's see. Also, another thing that I've been doing in my classroom is limiting the number of toys that the children have access to on a daily basis. Fortunately for me, I have received a grant, so that has helped me be able to afford more toys for my kids. So I have lots of bins full of toys. At the beginning of COVID, it was really stressful because I was spending a lot of time after the kids leave disinfecting all the toys. Now I disinfect the toys daily, but if I am like just wiped out at the end of the day, I can put some bins of toys aside and then, wipe those toys down whenever I have the physical and mental capacity to do that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm limiting the number of toys, cleaning them at the end of the day, and rotating different toys in and out of the classroom. Safety equipment and PPE when needed. So they want me to have something listed in my my little handbook about how we're going to be using safety equipment and PPE when needed. For me, that's obviously if I'm dealing with a child who has any sort of symptoms, I'm going to be wearing gloves. I wear my mask all day long with the kids. I do take my mask off outside if the kids are out away from me and they're running around and I just need a little break from my mask. I'll take it off whenever we're outside. But if I am in close proximity to the kids, then I am wearing my mask. So that's how I handle safety equipment and PPE. Let's see. Communication or protocol for a positive test result. So if one of my families were to test positive, then I would notify all of the other families. We've actually had this happen in our program. Fortunately, we were in a situation where one of my part-time children, her father tested positive for COVID. He had absolutely no symptoms. He was randomly tested because he was going in for surgery and they wanted to make sure that he was COVID-free, and he tested positive for COVID. Very, very lucky that the little girl, his daughter, had not been in our program, so they quarantined for 14 days before they were able to come back. Nobody else in the family had any symptoms, and so they went to 14 days without putting anybody else at risk. So in that situation, I just called all the families and I said, hey, look, I'm sorry, this little one's daddy has COVID and she hasn't come in contact with him. I think they had been in contact together for like 15 minutes. The little girl mom wasn't really concerned about her being at risk, but obviously we did quarantine for 14 days. So she quarantined for 14 days, but since she hadn't come into my program, we didn't quarantine for 14 days. So in my situation, if one of the children were to come into our program and unknowingly had COVID, or a family member unknowingly had COVID, then we would close down for 14 days. That would stink, but we would do it. Next question, or next requirement in the COVID response plan, according to Michigan, is what is the isolation procedure in case of symptoms or a confirmed case on site? So my isolation procedure is, generally speaking, when we're just regular, no COVID, I have my children sit at the table with a puzzle and wait for mom or dad to come. If they have symptoms, like if they were to have a fever or something like that. So at this point in time, it would depend on the age of the child. Now, if the children I care for are from age 1 to 5. So say if my 1-year-old or 2-year-old comes down with COVID, would it be possible for them to sit upstairs and watch a movie? Possibly. It depends on the child. Some of the children are okay. Just sitting. Obviously I would be going up and down the stairs and making sure that they're safe. But if I could, take that child out. The way that my house is set up, my daycare is downstairs and I have stairs, and then right off the stairs I have a family room. So it would be okay and safe for me to be able to have a child maybe sit on the couch and watch TV while waiting for their parent to come, so that they're not in direct contact with the other children. If this child were much younger and was not capable of doing that independently, then I would have to have them sit at the table, probably in a high chair with some toys until mom or dad came, and then I would disinfect the toys. So that would be what my isolation procedure is. And then obviously, if there were a confirmed site, or if there were a confirmed case on site, then we would have to close for 14 days and quarantine and make sure that everybody else is safe. So those are the parts of my COVID response plan that must be in place. And that's what I have for my parents. That's how I handled all of those different parts of that COVID response plan. So there, in our licensing department has sent out some suggested additional things that we could include in our COVID response plan. And I will kind of go over some of those. One, where will you isolate children with symptoms? As I mentioned before, in my case, I would isolate them either at the table in a high chair with some toys until mom or dad came, or upstairs, depending on their age and whatever would be safest for them. Two, there's the recommendation that you remove all toys that can't be cleaned. So that's like anything in your classroom that's fabric has to go. Anything that can't easily be washed needs to come out of the classroom. According to licensing standards in our state, they have said that it's okay to have books in rotation with the kids. I personally have all my books set up on the teacher counter. So I will still read the stories to the kids, but I don't really have them out in rotation for the kids, just because I don't know if they're going to say something different in a month from now, and then I've had all my kids playing with my books. So I put the books up. We have started watching a little bit more YouTube. I don't usually do a lot of screen time in my classroom, but in this case, it's like I can put on some sort of finger play YouTube video or something for the kids, and they're still getting that the literacy and language. It's not directly for me, but I can have them watching that. They're not touching books that could possibly have been contaminated or sneezed on or whatever children do to their books. And they still have that language and literacy, access to language and literacy. We limiting the toys to only ones that can be sanitized on a daily basis. We were already doing that. The dirty bin, that was an added suggestion. I have one of those. Rotating toys, definitely doing that. Seating children 6 feet apart. I have little individual tables, and I set those up for the kids. It's not exactly 6 feet apart, but it is a little bit more apart than it would typically be, which is, I feel like, is a good thing to do, because whenever you're talking, and our group is very chatty during meal times, if somebody sneezes or coughs while they're eating, they're not doing that in everybody else's lunch who's eating around them. So that I have found to be really helpful, and definitely something that we do in our program. Touchless trash cans. We got a new trash can. No drinking fountains. That's not an issue for us. We don't have drinking fountains in our classroom. Also, the suggestion was to have ventilation, cracking a window. We have an additional air filtration system that I've added to my classroom. I have an air iodizer, and it just filters out the air. So that's in addition to what my furnace already does. We also crack the window from time to time and get as much fresh air as we possibly can. The daily screening of children. Basically, I just ask parents, hey, how's it going? How are your kids feeling? And my parents are really good about choosing to keep their children home if they think that there's even a slightest possibility that their child might be ill. So those are all the things that we're doing in our classroom. I would love to hear if you have any further questions, or if you have any comments about your COVID response plan. And I hope you all stay safe. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and alerts, so that you can get all the information, everything that we're sharing here. And let me know what you think. If there's anything I can help you with, I love to help providers have an incredible program in your home. Anyways, have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.